Nomad Cosmetics is celebrating their 10-year anniversary and bringing back 3 fan favorite palettes. So let's take a look at each of the palettes. And I did receive these in PR from Nomad Cosmetics, so thank you so much for sending this over to me. So the first palette is Fête de Provence. Pardon my French pronunciation, I know nothing of French. If you've been on my channel and you saw my original video on this palette, this is one of my most favorite, if not the favorite color story that they've ever done. I love this color story from the beginning. I love the looks I created with this palette. So the difference between the new version and the old version, I will show you comparison swatches of the shimmers. The shimmers are what's different. So the shimmers in the new palette are quite a bit more amped up, specifically really noticeably these 2 duochrome shades, which were already beautiful. They were a little bit more satin-like in the original palette, but in this one they're way more punchy and also a bit more shifty, and these other shades have a little bit more sparkle in them as well. So they are the new updated Nomad Cosmetics formula. When this palette originally came out, it was right around the time of a new Bridgerton season, and I felt like this color story was such a Bridgerton color story with all the pastels and some of the kind of murkier tones. It just gives the vibes. The next palette is the America's Parks palette, and I did not get the chance to try this one on when it came out, but I'm excited to have it in my hands because I love these kinds of tones. I love me some neutrals, some greens, oranges, and this palette has 3 marble shades which are new to me from Nomad Cosmetics, so I was really excited to try those especially. And then we have some other more sparkly shades as well as some more smoother shades that have a little bit less shine. And then the third palette that's getting relaunched is the Berlin Underground, and I'm extra excited about this one because I love this color story. Again, a little bit more of a fall color story for sure. Not only have the shimmers been updated to their current formula, but also the mattes as well. And we have some differences in the mattes. From what I could see from pictures, that looks like there was like one matte shade that was almost a little mauve-y. So the palettes are launching Tuesday, June 3rd, 12:01 a.m. Eastern time. And for the first 3 weeks, they will be offered at a special price of $39 each, and then they will go back to the normal pricing of $44. And I do have an affiliate code with Nomad Cosmetics, which I'll put up on the screen that you can use to save 10% off of that. And thank you so much if you do use my code. So I'm going to show you a look with each of the palettes, and then I give you some of my thoughts at the end of the video. So let's get right into it. So I'm first taking Old Faithful and putting it onto the inner crease, about 1/3 way in. Super pigmented. I haven't tried the original of this palette, but I did swatch the shimmer so far, and they look super shiny. I was like, I don't know which one I even want to use. I want to use all of them. Next, going in with Giant Redwood right in the crease, right in the center. And this is the Refer 13 brush. And then I'm just blending it up and a little bit kind of down here, but not all the way. I'm going to go back in with a little bit more Old Faithful just to re-intensify it. And then taking South Rim, just like right on the outer corner right here. And I'm going to wipe off my brush and just start blending it out into a little bit of like a V shape. Taking just a little bit more, just on the outermost corner, and then I'm picking up Half Dome and putting that right onto the lid. I do wish this shade was a little bit deeper, but I think mixing these 2 shades together kind of creates this illusion that it's even deeper than they both are. Gonna go back in with a little bit of Giant Redwoods just to make sure these are kind of blended together. Gonna take a clean fluffy brush with some setting powder on it and just kind of smooth out the edges even further. Putting on some of the Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer with me and Clionadh's collab. And I always like to tap it out, make sure there's not too much product on. And then I cover as much area as I would like to. And I'm taking Big Bend, and it's gonna go onto the outer area right here, and I'm using me and Clionadh's collab brush, and I'm just kind of trying to merge it into the outer corner just a little bit, again on an angle, and then picking up Mammoth Curve and putting that down next to it. And then taking the yellow shimmer just on the very inner corner here for a little bit of that pop. Here's the finished look. So for the second look, I really want to focus on these two shimmers because these are the most different between the new and old palette, since these are way more sparkly. And I think this one's a little bit more sheer than this one, so I'm going to be trying to focus that one on the inner corner. So I'm picking up Rosé on me and Clionadh's collab brush, and I'm going to put that lightly into the inner crease. Just going to go in with a little bit more. And I primed actually with the Devinah Marix Color Fix. I wanted a super clear slate on the lid, and then I'm taking Calisons and I'm gonna pop that onto the outer half. So I did do a dedicated video on this palette when it first launched, and I actually did a second look with this palette as part of a different series. I think I only did 2 videos, and it was Guess the Palette I'm using. I remember really loving the way that look came out. I'm just gonna go in with a little bit more. Just really kind of fluffing it out here. And then I'm taking macarons on the outer corner, and I'm just kind of tapping it down. Definitely getting a little bit of fallout from this matte shade, which it did swatch pretty powdery. So I'm just adding that here. I feel like these mattes are not the kind of mattes where you can keep layering on. So if I was to go ahead and, for example, if I want to add the last black shade on here, I don't think it's going to... It's gonna kind of start blending away a little bit because of the nature of these mattes being a little bit powdery. Yeah, it's definitely blending away a little bit. So this is the kind of, I feel like these mattes are the kind of mattes that you don't want to layer too many powders. So I definitely see like out here, it's not really kind of staying as intense, but it's workable. But I don't know if I would necessarily do that all the time kind of thing. So I'm taking the orange, which I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce it. I'm gonna pop it on with my finger, just kind of in the center of my lid. Ooh, that is so nice and glistening. And then I'm gonna start layering it a little bit onto the transition of the red onto my lid. And then I picked up on Refer 26 the pink blue duochrome, and I misted it with the Carla Cosmetics Fix Potion or Mist, Fix Mist. And I'm just gonna pop that onto the inner corner. I do think this one is a little bit more textured for sure. You can kind of see it as they're next to each other. Ooh, I love this shade. I'm gonna go in with just a little bit more and kind of wrap it up. And a little bit on the inner corner as well. And then I think I'm gonna finish off this look with the, I think I'm gonna do the yellow. The yellow definitely swatched pretty powdery and not with a lot of pigmentation, which I remember it being the case in the original palette. So yeah, it definitely is a very gently pigmented yellow, pastel yellow. And here's the second finished look. And then for the third look, I'm going in with the Berlin Underground palette. I really want to use these 2 shades. So I'm going to focus this in kind of the center of my lid, this on the inner corner. And then I'm going to really smoke out the outer corner with this shade. Put this one all over the lid and this one a little bit more towards the inner corner. And I primed with the Devinah Marix Color Fix again, and this is the shade Nude 1. So I'm picking up NDW and I'm going to focus that, ooh, pigmentation. I'm going to focus that onto the crease and then start blending it out. I feel like this kind of stuck down. I don't know if it's the primer or if I just kind of haphazardly placed it onto my lid. And definitely getting quite a bit of kick up with this matte. And then I'm just going more to re-intensify it. And I'm really just trying to feather it in a little bit there because I'm going to put the yellow. And then just kind of swooping it out with whatever's left. Really gently going back and forth. I'm going to wipe off the brush and I'm going in with Helden. And I'm going to pop that on the inner kind of third of my inner crease. And this shade definitely seems like it's a little bit powdery. It seems like it needs to be built up a little bit. Probably wouldn't blend that one too much. And then taking the Refer 13 Mini and taking Clionadh, the black shade, and I'm going to tap it on first. I'm definitely getting some fallout, so I'm going to wipe off the brush a little bit, and I'm just going to really intensify this outer corner. I hope you can hear that bird. It is just having the time of its life. And I'm gonna connect it a little bit to their lower lash line. Really feel like it's super, super opaque. And then I'm gonna go back in with the other blending brush and the green. And I'm just gonna go back in and use that to add the green down here, but also to blend out the black. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to probably redo my under eye concealer. And just really blending it in there. All together. Picked up SO36 with me and Clionadh's collab brush. It's the one that has a little bit of more tooth to it. And I misted it with the Cosmetics mist. And I'm just gonna pop that right in the center. Oh yes. That is so beautiful. And then I'm gonna wipe off my brush and I'm picking up the wall. And my brush is still a little damp, so I'm not going to re-mist it. Yeah, the shade definitely could be a little bit more on the sheer side. It's got like silvery flecks throughout it. It's a little bit silvery. And then I'm gonna use the iridescent shade in the top, the very first shade. I can't pronounce it. I'm gonna put it on the inner corner highlight. Here's the third and final look. So first I'm going to talk about this palette, aka my favorite color story. Every time I open this, I feel so inspired. I think the tones in here are so interesting because we have some very poppy kind of shades up here, some that are a little bit almost like slightly murkier, brighter shades, and then murky cool tones. And I feel like there's so many looks you could create with this. You could go in with each column. You could also easily do a matte in the crease and a shimmer on the lid. And as a sparkle lover, you know I love the new updated shimmers in here, especially these two I think are really the most noticeable, and they're so shifty and so punchy. The shade has a little bit more of a slightly flakier texture, and I would definitely recommend some sort of a tacky primer with most of the shimmers, as you might experience fallout, especially with some of these more sparkly shades. And none of the shimmers are squishy or wet feeling or sticky or anything like that, which makes me very happy as someone with hooded oily lids and lots of creasing issues. I do want to talk about the mattes in general because they are the same formula. They feel the same, they apply the same. There's a little bit of maybe slight variation with the way some perform. Some of the darker mattes I noticed didn't want to build up on top of a matte that I already put down, had a little bit more issue of it sticking down, which generally speaking has been my experience, but not always. So it seems to be the deeper mattes. Sometimes I like to go in with lighter mattes and then deeper mattes layered on top of it, and then sometimes I do the reverse of that. And with these mattes, I do prefer to go in with the deeper matte and then go in with the lighter matte afterwards. And the mattes definitely have a little bit of kick up, and they are super pigmented, and they do blend really easily. For this look, I went into my crease with the yellow, and then I blended in the burnt orange, and they worked really great together, no issues. I think if I had gone in with the black on top of that, there would have been way too much powder down, and this kind of formula just kind of starts to get a little patchy when you layer too much of it on top of each other. So if I was to do this look and I wanted to use the black, I would have went in with the black first, then with the orange, and then with the yellow. I really like the tones of the mattes in here. I do wish there was a super dark brown. As for the shimmers, I love the shimmers in here. These are so beautiful. There's some really interesting shades in here. I highly recommend a tacky primer, especially with a lot of these shimmers. When I did this look, I applied the shimmers with just my finger on this side, and then I used the Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer on this side, and I definitely got them to be a little bit more opaque, a lot less fallout during application, and they just stuck down a little bit better. I did notice that some of these shimmers, especially kind of this shade and this shade, are smooth but have a slightly larger particle size. That creates the extra sparkly effect, and that tends to stick just a little bit on top of the lid, so it is much more prone to falling out throughout the day, mostly if you have hooded lids like I do. And then this shade right here, SO36, is such an interesting, super grungy shade. It has a gold reflect to it with almost like a grayish looking base. It's super interesting. And then the America's Parks, I feel like there's a little bit more variation in textures in here. Specifically, these three marble shades, they're a little bit harder pressed. They're really silky silky smooth, and these are going to apply so beautifully with a brush. I really like the combination of the matte and the shimmers. I think you can create a bunch of different looks, and my favorite shimmer in here is definitely Big Ben. It's got like a silvery base to it with a pinky reflect, but the pink reflect is almost like kind of scattered throughout, so it's really, really beautiful. It's really interesting. I'm really enjoying Nomad's newest shimmers. I like that they're not always completely jam-packed with multi-chromes. We get a variety of a multi-chrome, a duochrome, regular shimmer, an extra sparkly shimmer that has just dimensional sparkles throughout it. So I'm excited to dip into all these palettes some more. I definitely see myself wanting to reach for these, especially for some of the shimmers, because they are really, really interesting and I'm very impressed. Let me know in the comments below if you plan on picking any of these re-released palettes up. If you really enjoy tutorials, there will be some other videos up on the screen for you, so you can keep watching, and I hope to see you next time.